In my review for WWE 2K18 on the other platforms, I had a mostly positive experience with the still solid wrestling gameplay, but criticized it for not addressing the modes and features that needed the most work after WWE 2K17, and for the especially underwhelming My Career and Universe modes. I gave it a 7.0 for good. Unfortunately, the Switch version of WWE 2K18 is an inconsistent, buggy mess. And even if the wrestling was as strong as Mark Henry, it still wouldn't save what is one of the worst ports in the Switch's library. It's to be expected that a Switch port of WWE 2K18 would have a pretty dramatic graphical downgrade. And sure enough, the wrestlers look much less detailed, there's not as much animation in the crowd, and various lighting and other visual effects are turned off. It's noticeable at first, especially coming from the other versions, but I got used to it quickly. The big problem with WWE 2K18 on the Switch is that even with the graphical downgrade, it still performs terribly. Whenever there are more than 2 characters in a match, the frame rate slows to a nearly unplayable crawl, and the more characters you add, the worse the slowdown gets. That makes match types like Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, and ladder matches an absolute chore to get through. 8-man matches have been totally removed for obvious reasons. The slowdown even ruins entrances. Every wrestler's entrance is affected by characters moving at about half speed while their music plays normally, leading to these awkward moments where actions are completely out of sync, making the sequences take twice as long as they're supposed to. On top of the performance problems, you can add in audio crackling when the crowd gets loud and even more bugs than ever before.
And he releases the hold.
In every single multi-man match that I've done, I've had at least one wrestler continuously run into either the turnbuckle or the apron for extended periods of time. And Michael Cole or Corey Graves on commentary will start talking about a wrestler, then abruptly stop before finishing the thought.
Tell me your thoughts on Ultimate Warrior.
There's just an overall lack of polish that permeates every single aspect. The very faint and dim light at the end of the dark tunnel that is WWE 2K18 is that at least one-on-one matches are fine, for the most part. And there are a few smaller arenas where the slowdown isn't as substantial, allowing you to at least play triple threat or fatal 4-way matches. Even if you're a hardcore wrestling fan with a shiny new Switch, you shouldn't go anywhere near this awful port.
Yeah, we'll see about that, Kurt. Consider yourself and the entire WWE universe challenged. Here's what others are saying.
$29.99, none of that multiplayer bullshit.
Mighty fine deal.
Hero shooter Lawbreakers is best known for its catastrophic failure, shutting down 13 months after it launched. Cliff has a troubled history with the PC platform, and he knows it.
I'm well known in PC circles for talking trash about the PC as a platform in the past.
Talking trash is downplaying it. This is what he said. The person who is savvy enough to want to have a good PC to upgrade their video card is a person who is savvy enough to know BitTorrent and to know all the elements so they can pirate software. Therefore, high-end video games are suffering very much on the PC. He called PC enthusiasts thieves and used this warped view to justify taking the Gears franchise off the platform. To be fair, he retracted this when he crawled back to the PC platform with Lawbreakers. But just listen to his apology.
I'm well known in PC circles for talking trash about the PC as a platform in the past. I was wrong, okay? Let it go, people.
Let it go? Does this sound like a sincere and heartfelt apology? Or does it sound like he thinks what he did was no big deal? One does not get to demand forgiveness in such a flippant, remorseless manner. It sounds like he thinks the PC community is unreasonable for holding him to his own words. Interesting how his 2-sentence apology does not address Gears of War, a blockbuster franchise taken off the platform entirely. To be fair, he could be seen as the guy who made Gears a blockbuster franchise in the first place. This endeared him to the Xbox community, who naturally were disappointed when he announced that his next game, Lawbreakers, would not come to the Xbox. What did he have to say about his fans' disappointment?
You guys announced that the game is coming to PS4,
Yep.
PC, but no Xbox, right?
Yeah, and those Xbox fanboys are pretty salty.
Yeah, I mean, well, they supported you for a long time.
Oh, I believe the line on my Twitter feed was "You're biting the hand that feeds" of the people that made you with Gears of War.
You see people on Twitter if they have that purple M in their Twitter.
Especially the Xbox fanboys. Very, very salty.
No, they won't believe me. Yesterday, I
was sprinkling it on there.
This does not exactly inspire confidence in his respect for his customers. You do not make amends with the PC community by trashing the platform you abandoned them for. This shows us he hasn't learned his lesson at all. He did to the Xbox with Lawbreakers what he did to the PC with Gears 2 all those years ago. We wonder who he'll be calling salty next in a few years' time. On that note, we wonder if the Xbox community will also be told,
I was wrong, okay, let it go, people.
Furthermore, those weren't Xbox fans who were upset. They were your fans, Cliff. Fans who bought the exclusives you developed for the Xbox. Fans who were disappointed they couldn't buy your next product. How did you repay their passion? By ignoring their platform and insulting their enthusiasm for your work. In doing so, you alienated the only community that was looking forward to your game. But we're sure you had your reasons.
Some of the fans feel betrayed that Xbox built you who you are. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
Look, I get you have feelings, that's cool, but this is a fucking business.
Yeah.
And I have 65 people, many with families, who need to feed those families and keep the lights on.
How did that work out for you? Bosky is dead and Lawbreakers is unplayable. Perhaps it would have gone differently had you ported the game to the only community that felt anything about it.
The city is secure. Those who fled are being hunted, and those foolish enough to remain have been executed.
Do you see all that I have done?
The war's over. And we've lost.
Our numbers will continue to dwindle. We can no longer protect ourselves, much less the survivors. We all know what needs to be done.
Get up close and personal with Gulp, put a bullet in his head, then maybe eat a sandwich.
An outright assault is doomed to fail. There will be no coming back.
It's worth it.
If the Red Legion want war, give them war.
Humanity never deserved power. I am gone, and I alone am worthy.
This is great. Anyone want a hug? No hugs.
I mean, Brad, is there anything you want to get off your chest about Mass Effect right now that needs to be said?
Reviews on the website. I just gave it the wrong score.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
They like on top
I
of
remember
everything
we
else.
went back and forth on that score a lot
You
before the
kind
review.
of talked me, or yes, I was very ready to savage that game.
I mean,
on top of everything else, they set up like 3 unsolved subplot mysteries for the sequel and DLC that will never be resolved now. Like massive parts of the core storyline of that game will never be resolved.
But wait, are they just done? Like they're not doing?
Yeah,
DLC?
they
put out an announcement a while ago saying,
nope.
Oh, they straight up killed. Like it's like, hey, we're done.
The studio that made the game has been converted back into a support studio.
So you weren't kidding when you said they killed Mass Effect.
They actually they came out and said this franchise is going back on the shelf for the foreseeable future.
I thought you just meant they made a bad one, Mass Effect.
No,
they actually
you give it 8 years from now, maybe someone will dig it out.
Do that.
But then you say that, but you would say that about a lot of EA franchises that they never pull back out.
Also, if nobody cares about relatively minor spoilers, I could tell you gaping things that
that's why we're here.
Remember how your mom is dead?
Yeah.
At the beginning of that game, and it's like oh, our parents are dead. Like they died in the service of this epic mission. We have to carry on their legacy. Your mom turns out to not be dead at the end of the game. Like 3-4 hours before the end of the game, they're like, no, she's actually in this cryo tube over here. She's been here the whole time.
Why didn't anybody find her?
She was under an assumed it was a different name. Like they had filed her under a different name.
Oops.
Wait a minute.
But I'm not done. There's the reveal that your mom is still alive, and they never address it again.
It wasn't always like this. Ashen used to be a respectable town. Until all hell broke loose. Now, It's ride, fight, or die.
Dookie House correspondent Jeff Gerstmann.
That's right. Coming straight at you with Battlefront 2. It's not a good game. You know, like the issues with that game are not like the microtransaction loot box controversy stuff is a very real problem.
Sure.
But the problems with that game don't get solved by them tweaking numbers or doing whatever it is they claim they're going to do. It's just the campaign is not good. The multiplayer structure is not good, and then all of that structure is then informed by their poor player progression system, which is, you know, which is built in league with the microtransactions and stuff like that.
I think I read a line in his review that was like it seems like this was conceptually just made in like a boardroom as opposed to
a lot of it. I mean, you know, when they put out that beta, it literally came with a fucking PowerPoint presentation.
Exactly.
It was just like, here's John Boyega showing you some charts, and yeah, that thing is just sad.
I get that, but I mean, like as a Star Wars fan, is there enough there? Like
it depends. Like the action is fine, right? Like
beautiful looking game.
It's very turnkey. Like it's fine in the negative sense. Like you play it and you go like, yeah, I guess I shot all those stormtroopers. Whatever. It's not.
Are we talking campaign or multiplayer?
Yeah, campaign. Like the multiplayer is kind of the same thing too. It's just like, I went on this map again and did this thing, and the options you get as a character, the options you get to tweak your loadouts and the hero loadouts and the ship loadouts and all that stuff are rarely compelling. Building the system the way they did is, I was going to say criminal, but that's way too harsh.
We'll see what Belgium has to say.
Yeah, it's fucked up. How about that? And removing the hey, what if you could pay your way out of this only means you're now left with a game that has a bad progression, and the system by which you level up that progression is now you're forced into this like hugely long grind to get the stuff you might want to get. And by the way, most of that stuff is not worth getting.
Cashews! Pilot's license? What for? I just love the smell of lanolin in the morning. Bobcat in your face! I'm gonna knit the biggest sweater ever! Did I ever tell you about my movie career? I'm a pretty big deal in Iceland. One Woolie down, and a lot more to go! Yay! Take that, you cotton goblin monster! Is there a veterinarian in the house? Bubsy, the Woolies strike back by accolade.